So this is basically just to give you some tips today on how to take better photos of yourselves or your clients using your smartphone. So obviously I'll give you some examples of professional photos, but mainly I'm using myself as my own case study here, just because it's a lot easier and it's practical and to you as well. So obviously you both know me anyway, so I don't need to go through that. But if anyone's watching back on this recording, there's my details. And feel free to ask me questions throughout. I want this to be interactive as well. So feel free just to, just speak up basically. So I'm going to start with lighting first and foremost. So there's 4 common mistakes I see people making. So the first one would be flare. So that's coming from, as you can see on screen there, the light above and sort of coming from any halogen lights. Do either of you get that at all in where you train? No? So, someone's just trying to get in. Just wait. Okay. We've only just started, so that's okay. So the second mistake I see is using too much light. So by using too much light, that means basically you're flooding the body with light, and the aim here is to create shadows in the right places. So I'll show you on the next slide the difference between this one here, this one at the side here, and and the next one, which I've just flicked to. But yeah, so the other thing is too much shadow. So this is often caused by you being too directly underneath the light. What I should have done here would be step forward, so I could get a little bit of light in the back area. And the absolute no-no for me is shooting against light. So basically it's creating more flare. It can make your picture look quite hazy, and just not very contrasted. So the aim with general physique photos is to want to create shadows, depth, and contrast to the body and to the image. So basically you having flare coming into the shot with too much light, or just general crappy flares from lighting above with halogen lighting. My gym that I train is the worst gym in the world for taking photos, so you've got to find the spots in the gym as well that work best for you. And you will find them. You just got to experiment a little bit, but these are just some things to look out for. The way to improve those would be, if you see there, you have flip back round, so the angle is from the other side. So if I just go back, here we've got too much light. It's okay, but it's a bit flat, that picture. And then here we've got light coming from behind. Can you see now I've got shadow in the front, and it's creating almost like a highlight around the arms. So it creates depth and shape and form. So Marius, I know you're a PT, so when you're looking at taking photos of your clients, you want to be looking at this to try and create sort of depth. Rather than flooding someone with light in fitness photography, we're looking at creating shadows and creating depth and form. So you can see here, just we're emulating this natural light here in this photo on the left-hand side. So by creating highlights around, it creates shadows as well. But equally, you could face into the light and use that as a fill on a face, or wherever you want. But then even still with this, in this photo here in the red, we've still got some darker areas, some shadows and form. And as we go on, I'll show you a great example that I got at the weekend of a sculpture, and the sunlight was just in the right place to demonstrate this. So I took a picture of it. So if you're in a gym with spotlights, then a lot of the time, most people go directly underneath the spotlight. You need to either take a step forward or a step back, so the direction of the light is coming sort of semi-diagonal. And that's how I tend to light my clients as well. And I'll show you in a sec a little behind the scenes shot of that. But that just means we get that sort of ambient shadow that we wanted to create that I keep going on about. So also you could look at finding natural light. You've got to be careful here if you're in direct sun, not to what we call overexpose, and basically overlight your skin, especially if you've not got a tan as well. So you want to light the person or yourself, but still create contrast and shadows, basically. So I'm going to show you a little step-by-step later on in this on how to reduce this skin hair. You see where his arm is there? There is an earlier shot I had of him was overexposed and you couldn't see any muscle detail or anything, any vascularity. So there is a little tip you can do when you're taking the photos to avoid that with your phone. So just moving on then. So this sculpture I took at the weekend, can you see how the sunlight has naturally created a shadow? But if I went round to the right-hand side, we'd be flooding the object with light. If I went round to the left-hand side, we wouldn't have no shape and form, it'd be quite flat. So by sort of going side on to the light, we're creating some depth and sculpting of the muscle bellies or the person's physique. So you can see here on the right-hand side how I light a fitness shoot generally. And it's generally from a higher angle and directionally angled to one side of the person. So that just makes sure we're not flooding the person with too much light, but we're just lighting part of it and sort of creating a roundness. So this picture here, you can see where the light's coming from. In fact, this is a quiz. Where is the main light? There's two lights on this picture. This was took with a proper camera and lighting. Hands up if anyone, or speak up. Where is the main light coming from on this picture here? Go on, Marius.
Is it from front?
It's sort of from the light was sort of placed to the right of camera, so yeah, kind of, but it's to the side almost, and it's coming from quite high up, and it was a hard light, so I don't think on that one I had what I call a soft box on, so it was a hard light, a raw light. And you could emulate this if you wanted with an LED panel or even sunlight, because this is essentially emulating sunlight with a bit of contrast. Now, I've added an extra bit of contrast in on this picture with my studio lighting and some colour as well, just to give it extra depth from the back. So my lighting setup tends to be sort of one light at the front. Can you see here? I've lit this lady from sort of the side angle, and then another light generally goes here in the back to create that sort of 3D directional form and shape. Oh, Ryan's just trying to get in now. I'm gonna wait for him to come in. Hi, Ryan. I think he's doing his cardio. So yeah, so lighting the person directionally from an angle, main light from the front, and then the secondary light from the back to create this shape and form here, really does create that depth and contrast to an image. So yes, you're thinking about lighting when you're in a gym, even if it's using natural lighting. I've lost my mouse, hang on. Okay. Oh. There we go. So just to recap then, what we don't want is flare. We don't want to flood as image with too much light. We're trying to avoid too much light flooding in towards the camera lens. just because it doesn't look very good, doesn't look very professional. It's a bit hazy. It's not going to show off your physique. You don't want too much shadow either, so we're going to basically step forward or behind, slightly away from the spotlight above. We're going to go around so we create a bit of a sort of halo effect around the muscle or the body. So it creates a bit of shape and form and shadow in the front area here and highlights in other areas. So we've got shape and definition, a bit like emulating natural sunlight. But if we are using natural sunlight and facing into the sunlight, you don't want it to be overexposed and too bright. You still want detail to show there. So I'm going to show you some editing techniques shortly about that. So are we all good so far? Yeah. So like I said, I'm using my own pictures just for the purpose of demonstration. So this is obviously a quick whistle stop tour of things, but the main thing when you're posing, taking any sort of photos of yourself or even of your clients, doing check-ins, I know if you're both PTs, so is looking at creating that illusion. Ryan's competed before, so he knows all about bodybuilding posing. But making sure we sort of create a twist in the waist, a bit of shape. So notice how it just looks completely different as you're going along. So I look quite flat there, I look quite flat there. I start to create a twist and then, move my leg a little bit. And then all of a sudden my physique looks completely different. I've got that X shape. So like this, basically. So creating that X shape, bodybuilder X shape. So you want the narrow waist, wide shoulders, and legs, basically. But what I would say is some tips for posing is not to be afraid of showing off all different angles. You can use mirrors as well to show both sides. That can be quite good. But if you are shooting into a mirror, if you're shooting your client, make sure that you're not in the mirror, basically. So you might have to duck down a little bit outside of the mirror or go from a slightly different angle rather than front on. And again, with the angles, if you're shooting backs, a lot of people go straight on. Now, I tend to do a straight on shot to show width and lat width. But then I also do an angled one from the side because it tends to show better definition. Obviously, if the machine's there and that's where the gym is, and you're shooting with natural light, what's available in the gym, you have not control over the lighting. When I'm taking photos, I tend to put my light in here and sort of shoot from the side. So again, we've got this shadow down the side, and it's more highlighted here so you can see detail. So the last thing to be aware of when you're doing your posing for a photo, I would say, is be aware of arms and legs, and also making sure that you're tensing everything. If it is, a progress photo or physique photo, making sure you're tensing everything you've got, basically. Do either of you two struggle with anything when you're checking photos for clients?
I get my clients so like online coaching classes, they take their own pictures, and they usually are quite flat because they'll just take them in a bathroom or very unappealing. So what to recommend them to, what would be the best option to go, hey, this, if you do it this way, that would work better for your home.
Yeah, okay. Right. Well, I would always say, well, this is kind of the next slide, really. So, checking photos, I would say go from the same height every time, the same place, same time of day. Everything needs to be consistent because as an online coach, you can't tell, you're not there in person. So ideally, everything needs to be the same. But in terms of lighting and positioning, I would use a tripod. And I'm going to show you a little trick in a couple of slides' time. If they've got an Apple Watch, I've just bought an Apple Watch. It's the most amazing thing I've ever bought. There's a little trick for that. So ideally lighting wise, you can, so these pictures I took the other day of myself, well, I got someone to take them for me, but you can see here it was took from quite low down. Here was took from like waist height. So things to look out for is obviously I'm super critical as a photographer when it's a picture of myself, but not too much sort of room above the head. You need to fill the frame with the actual person, because when you crop someone's or someone else crops their own legs off the photo, it can look quite unbalanced for you to judge their overall physique. It does make a big difference. But the angle also makes a difference as well in terms of how they're looking. You might think they've progressed, and the waist got smaller, or whatever, but in actual fact, it's just took from a different height. So whenever I were trying to do check-in photos, I'd always place it on the same table, the same tripod, and everything else. Obviously, we're coming into summer now, so it's a lot better, and we're not struggling with dark mornings as well. I generally say if they're taking it in flat light and they're looking better and better by the week, that's kind of good, because you're gonna look your worst in natural light, as like when you're being flooded. So if you can see definition and they still look really good in this light, and when they're being flooded with light, that's good. But also if you want if they can try and get so the windows facing sideways, so if I just don't know if it was gonna work, face this way on and the light's coming from here, then they're gonna get shadows down this side. Does that make sense? So they're gonna show more definition down one side. Also eliminate distractions in the background, I would say, as well, for client check-ins. So I've put that here. So fill the frame. They could utilize mirrors, or equally you could utilize mirrors for your own photos, but your clients could utilize mirrors as well. Be aware of your background, avoid distractions. You don't really want, like, I don't know, the kitchen with all the pots on the side and stuff in the background. A plain background always will look better for you as well if you wanted to use it on your own socials. Experiment with angles that look best for yourself or show your true physique. And try not to use, this is a big one for quality, not using the zoom on the camera, so on your phone, so using the actual feet to zoom it rather than using your camera to zoom in, because that what that does, it sort of gets rid of the quality and it starts to pixelate and guesses colours and definition, so the pictures don't look as sharp. So if you can't physically go forward, crop afterwards, and that always works better. So I would tell your clients to give you the photos of the check-ins raw, unedited, and then you can see the true version, because you can make it look better through editing as well. But iPhones, I find, do tend to, even like the 13 Pro Max like mine, do tend to soften you a little bit and guess definition. So ultimately, you know, a video check-in could be better for you as well. You might want to consider that. So in terms of steps of taking photos, then clean the lens. That is a massive one, because if your lens is not clean, then it might look blurry. You might not be able to see how crisp they are in the definition if they have got a dry look to them, or you just might be missing that clarity. And it sounds crazy, but it does make a big difference, and that can affect that lens flare as well when you've got lighting. So you might see sometimes there's like streaks down the picture, and that's because the lens isn't clean. On your iPhone as well, you can tap, I don't know if you know this, but you can tap on the screen to focus it, but you can also adjust the brightness. So if you tap on the screen, there's like a sun comes up, you can go up and down to adjust the brightness. That's a lot better than adjusting it after, especially if it's too bright, because you're going to get a better quality photo at the end of the day. So have you ever got an Apple Watch? No? You're gonna go buy one now. Trust me. So basically, you can go into the sort of camera setting on your watch, and you can see what's on your phone. So if you're recording video, taking photos, and you've got it on a tripod or whatever, you can actually take the photo on a timer, and then it's really good. Or you can start recording a video, and it's really good because you can actually see what you're looking at. So always also use the back. So use the back of this side rather than the front facing camera, because you've got 3 lenses there. It's a lot better quality. It's like 3 times better quality. So try and use that. But obviously, if you've got the Apple Watch, you can see what's on your screen as well. So it's really handy. I think that's why a lot of people use mirrors to shoot into when they've got a tripod, and they can see what's on the screen on this side, but it's getting the better quality that way. So use a tripod. I've got like a monopod thing that I take into the gym, and it just can send, if you want this link, I can send you it. But basically, it's sort of like a monopod that pulls out, and it's really compact. It goes really high, but yeah, that's like super compact, and it just fits in my gym bag. So it's really good. That I just got that from Amazon, about 20 quid. So obviously, don't be afraid to ask someone for help, which is a given, but don't feel daft, and ensure that your photo is focused before you take it. That is quite essential. So any questions? No? Good. Right, so editing then. So there is a little tip here. You can actually, once you've done the edits on your picture, you can actually press on the little dot at the top and copy the edits over to the next picture, which will save tons of time, especially checking photos. So I always go through this sort of process. I increase the contrast, 30% sharpen, then I adjust the exposure and the brightness, depending where it needs to be. I always increase saturation generally by about 10%. Generally increase the warmth. It just makes you look better. It makes you look more tanned. And then I reduce the highlights and shadows. Generally highlights on the iPhone are quite sort of bright, but shadows as well. I decrease them to create that contrast again. So contrast essentially does highlights and shadows anyway, but you can control them separately. So yeah, but that is a real handy feature there, and you've got consistency then as well, especially with checking photos. So, and anything that saves time is all good to me. So so that's it really. Ending on time for once. So any questions either you've got, obviously you both know me, you've got my number, but you can ask me now. I just want to let you know about, if you haven't seen it already, obviously Marius, you've got a photo shoot booked, but if any of your clients are looking to shoot soon, I do have some specific shoot dates coming up, where it's free gym hire for these, for some private locations that I've got. So we're shooting in Be Strong in Rotherham, my studio, and then Graph Gym in Halifax, which is a really cool gym. So it's $199 for that package. So if you do have any clients that wanted to shoot quite soon in April, May or July, let me know. Obviously I offer group shoots as well. So we've got a little go. So yeah. So
I'll speak to my clients about that, because one of them just come back from Thailand. She was going to do a shoot before, but she couldn't squeeze it in. So I'll speak to her maybe May for her, to be honest.
Okay.
And myself, definitely in July.
I know you're crafting hard there, right?
Yeah. Trying to catch my breath on Stairmaster, the drill.
I know. I told you it's a wonder I'm not on the treadmill at the same time.
That's why I've not got my video on. You see my head going up and down.
It's all right. I don't mind. It's what it is. So yeah, group shoots as well. There is group shoot pricing, which is quite good if you've got 3 or more clients. So
yeah, that'd be cool, actually.
Yeah, it might be good for you, right? If you've got yourself and a client to then maybe look at doing like a combined shoot. We'll work out a best price for you and stuff. But yeah.
Cool. No worries. I'll screenshot that anyway.
Yeah, I can
nice
send
one.
it. I'll send it details. There's a web page.
All right, yeah,
So,
cool.
any other questions, guys?
No, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
It's all right. I'll send you this, and then like you can always send it to your clients as well.
Cool. Thank you very much, Paul.
No worries. Right. Okay. Marius, I'll send you some dates to book a call in. All right. And Ryan, I'm doing legs with you, I think, soon. So
Yeah, we did. I'll go back to the messages and I'll confirm which date. Well, I can't remember which it was, but it works anyway. So it sounds.
well, all right, guys. Thanks for coming.
No problem. Speak to you soon.
See
Thank you
ya.
very much. This was
Bye.
great. Thank you.
All right. Bye.